Hey, hello there. Welcome to the Dani and Paul show. Today is episode 10, and we're all about 10x here as well. I'm here with the wonderful Coach Paul. I'm Dani Apgar. How you doing today, Paul?
I'm 10xing today because I'm committed, man. I'm
Awesome.
committed to doing this show and I'm committed to helping people every day. So I'm ready to go.
Heck yeah, and that is what we are talking about today is all about commitment. And really commitment is really everything. You got to show up for yourself. You got to be committed to what you want in life, right? You got to show up, you got to commit, and then you'll be able to knock things down and eventually get that super life or that life that you want. So, commitment. Take it away, Paul. What does commitment mean to you?
Well, I got to tell you, I'm gonna tell a little story here because we talk about all the client wins and all that stuff when we're on the show, and very rarely do we ever talk about client losses. Well, I'm going to talk about a client loss today. I do some subcontracting for a larger organization, and so I take some of their clients on. And I one client through that organization who paid quite a bit of money for their coaching program. And it was a 6 month program. And they showed up to 20% of the coaching calls. 20%. So, and we had our last call this week. And, he texted me before the call. He says, I'm going to be on the call today. I'm going to be on the call today. I want to get as much as I can out of this call today. And so I got on the phone and I said, hey, what's going on? How you been doing? We haven't talked in like 4 sessions because you haven't showed up. So, and he said, well, my truck broke down and this happened and that happened. And I haven't been able to get on the calls and I haven't been able to, you know, uh, do the work. And right now I'm short of cash. I don't have enough cash and I got to go figure out to get cash. And I was like, wow. And I said, and I just kind of got point blank with him. And I said, you know why this is happening, right? And he goes, no, no, just everything goes wrong. I said, no, everything is going exactly the way it's supposed to be going. It's because you haven't committed to do the work that it takes to get where you want to go. And I said, so now you're stuck at the end because you've been distracted by, all the things that are going on and you haven't shown up. And he says to me, he goes, well, Paul, I made the phone calls like he told me to, and I kept hearing no. And hearing no that many times, he says that it just affected me. I ended up sitting in my chair and watching TV rather than making the calls. Now you go, thank you. You're proving my point. You weren't committed. I said one of the things that you have to realize is that if only 10% of 100 calls says yes, that's still 10 people that you're doing business. So if you get 90 no's up front, you're just working your way through that 91st call that's a yes. You have to commit. You have to commit to the process. You have to commit to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And he got off the phone. He's taking all those notes, and I hope he comes back to the programs and is committed so that we can get where we're going. Because I have a similar client who does the exact same thing on the opposite side of the country, and they started about the same time. And this guy's tripled his revenue, and this guy's gone broke.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Interesting. You know, I,
So,
yeah,
so
commitment is key.
it's and it's hard. I mean, ultimately, we all have days, and I've had days through my career where I was beaten up and I sat in front of the couch and ate a bag of potato chips and watched a couple of movies.
Right.
Absolutely. But the next morning, I got up and recommitted. And I think
Yeah.
that's part of it is recommitting on a daily basis. What
Yeah.
do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's definitely okay to lick our wounds, but it's what matters is getting back up. If because nothing is going to happen by sitting on the couch and just hoping, nothing. And you know, I am a little nervous about these kids growing up these days, because everything is so, you know, on demand and automatic. But learning how to take no's is imperative to emotional intelligence and to just being able to thrive in the world, right? So to be able to show up and make a game out of like, how many no's can I get today? And really, I don't want no's. I want yeses as well. But like, oh, okay, well, there was another no. That means I'm that much closer to a yes. And it really, when they say sales is a numbers game, I mean, life is a numbers game. Because to me, life is sales. I've said that over and over again. And yeah, it's so interesting that you brought up about that client, because I have a new client that was supposed to start this week. Her first meeting was supposed to be on Monday. Monday, an hour prior, she told me she had an emergency, couldn't make it, so I allowed her to reschedule it. I then saw that she was on my schedule twice for this week, and I was like, oh, well, that's not good. And so she picked the day. She's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know which day I would be able to make. Okay, no, one day. And then today I said, okay, so are you ready? We're supposed to meet today. And she was like, well, I'm at the mall, but yes, I can be on. You're at the mall? I was like, okay, well, we will be rescheduling. And, you know, I need you to be focused. I need you to be committed. I need you to be in front of your computer. I need you not to be at the mall distracted. And when you're ready to make the commitment to yourself and to a better life, rebook with me. And I also then gave her some extra homework to do and gave her a little bit of praise because she did do a little bit of homework. Still should have been more, but I didn't want to like totally damper her because we haven't actually had a session yet. But it's like, okay, I already know what's going on in that girl's life. And commitment is a big thing that she gets to work on.
Yeah. So what do you think? What do you think? What's a good way to cultivate commitment in yourself? What are the things that you can do to maintain a commitment?
Well, I think we first need to start with perhaps like the underlying reasons why people may not commit fully, and that would be, you know, fear. Whether that's fear of success, fear of failure, who knows? It could also be limiting beliefs, and so to be able to talk about that with your coach or with somebody about the fear of failure, success, judgment, whatever it may be, I think will help you know where you need to what hurdles you get over so that you can commit. And I mean, Paul, you may be thinking, well, you either commit or you don't, which goes in my head anyways. But yet there is that fear. And when we talk about the fear and we talk about and we shine a light on that fear, and then we take action and then we commit to that action, then the ball starts really rolling.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I think one of the, as you're talking about, I think about a lot of things, and I think about when I was younger. Floating through life, not really knowing where I was going. Um, and it makes me think that, I didn't have goals at the time, right? Goals were kind of foreign to me, but even after I did, it was tough to commit. And I found out over time it was because the goals weren't big enough.
Mhm.
They didn't get me excited to lean in to whatever it was I was doing. It was the goals were take it or leave it goals. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, be nice.
Yeah, opportunity costs going to the beach
Mhm.
as opposed to doing what needed to get done, or there's a really good movie on the TV that I wanted to
Or the
see
mall.
and it's on, or I never had a shopping addiction, so that's definitely not it. Maybe go in the mall to go to a movie, um, but sometimes just a the goal's not big enough, or the goal's so big that you can't build the process to get to the goal. So, a lot of that is, it's kind of funny. I've taken 3 clients. I said, let's go back to kindergarten. And what I want you to do is break out 2 giant sheets of parchment paper and break out your kids' crayons and draw out where you want to be. And then draw a line back to where you are and start filling in all the things that you need to do to get to where you want to go.
Mm-hmm. It's
And
like a fun
it's,
exercise. Just I have these really big sticky post-it notes that are huge. I think I may do that with my nephews.
yeah, just get in there and start filling it in. Build something you can color in,
Yeah.
because that way you can kind of see where you're going. It's if you're driving on the highway, you can't see where the road goes, but if you get up above it and you've got a map, you can see where every road goes, and you can build in the places that you need to stop along the way to your destination. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's to be able to sit down on your kitchen table with a set of crayons and start really drawing out where you want to be. Because we tend to think about it. We all think about it. We think about it when we're sitting on the couch, when the TV blips off, or when we're staring out the window. We think about where we want to go, or what we want to have, or what we want to do. And then as quickly as that thought forms, it disappears. And
Mm-hmm.
it keeps coming back, and then we get into a conversation wrapped around coffee, and we go, I've been thinking about doing this for
Yeah.
years, but I've never done anything about
Yeah.
it. And it's if I think about it, let's put it on paper, because if it gets on paper and we get to
Yeah.
draw it out and we can see what
Yeah.
we need to do to get there.
Yeah, it becomes tangible. And I do think that there are a lot of people, and I definitely know a lot of the people that I've coached, when I've asked them if they've ever written down their dreams, their goals, a lot of times, well, I think about it a lot. So to your point, it's like, yes, well, thinking about it, I mean, that's great. That's how we hatch an idea. However, by putting it on paper, that really does then allow us to have that roadmap to where we want to go. And I think there's a difference between between interest, like I'm interested in something, and being committed, right? So when you're interested in something, that's where it's a matter of convenience. Well, I'm interested in learning about cars. Well, yeah, okay. In my spare time, I'll do that. But I'm committed to raising the best children I possibly can. Those are two different things between being convenient, and then commitment is no excuses. I am committed to this. um, that's where marriage had started once upon a time. I think we've got away from that, but that's really commitment means no matter what. No matter what is what commitment means to me anyways, right?
Makes sense. Makes sense. So I think, as we're having this conversation, commitment starts in one place. It starts as a decision.
Mm-hmm.
We all have 60 million opportunities out there, and we're always trying to decide between one thing and the other, and we make soft decisions. Well, maybe I'll go this way, or maybe I'll go that way.
Mm-hmm.
I had a great meeting today with a budding entrepreneur and inventor who has all these things he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
And or I shouldn't say all these things that he wants to do. He has all these opportunities sitting in front of him. And it was our first session today, and I listened to all the things that he wants to do, and they're all amazing things.
Mhm.
And I looked at him and I said, we have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Because for me to help you move forward in any direction, I need to know which direction that you want to go. And the only person that can make that decision
Hmm.
is you.
Yeah.
And once you make that decision, then you go that direction. It's kind of like a racehorse running at the Kentucky Derby. They have these little black blinders on the sides,
Hmm.
and all those other opportunities go away
Yep.
because this is true opportunity cost. Once you make the decision, is the cost of everything else that you're thinking or interested in, to your point,
Hmm.
that need to go away so that you can focus on this direction and commit to it
Hmm.
and all the things that it takes to do to get that particular thing done. In business, it's key, right? It's understanding your operating procedure and working your way through where you want to get with your business and in your personal life.
Hmm.
To your point, marriage is the same commitment.
Yeah.
So
Right. Right. And I think sometimes people with commitment, um, I know that I've struggled with this in the past, but I didn't call it commitment at the time, was the rigidity, being so rigid. But it doesn't, being committed doesn't mean being rigid, because it just means committed to the final outcome that you want. And the road to get to where you want to end up, to where you're committing to go, is going to be full of twists and turns and unexpected issues, problems, opportunities, and things of just magical wonder that you never even expected. But it is about taking those steps to get to that final outcome that you're looking for, and being committed to do whatever it takes, and being fluid, not just being, rigid, means I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do it this way. Sometimes I think people get, well, if I have to do it this way, then they become locked. And as a coach, we get to unlock them, because that's actually why they're stuck. They can't get to the next step because they're stuck. Does that make sense?
I I wholeheartedly agree. And not only that, that is the whole point of drawing the map. that is that is the whole reason we go back to kindergarten, break out
Mhm,
the crayons,
mhm,
is to find the end point. Because if you aren't looking at the end points, you have no way to move around to get around those obstacles and roadblocks and detours that you are absolutely going to go through. You never change the goal, you only change the way you get there. And there is no rigidity in that.
yeah.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. It is truly keeping your eye on the ball and understanding that this is where you need to go, and you may not get there the way you originally planned to get there. You may have to take an alternate road. Commitment isn't rigidity. It is understanding that there's a place that you want to be, and that there's a place that you're at, and there are a whole bunch of things that you're going to have to walk through, jump over, crawl under, and fly to get to that point.
Hmm.
And it is the creativity that comes from knowing where the point is and how you're going to get there, which is the antithesis of rigidity.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I love it.
So,
Yeah.
wow, we've really covered commitment. Are you committed to this?
I am committed to this. Absolutely. I think this was a great discussion, and would, invite our listeners to chime in. What are you committed to? What does commitment mean to you? Look back, and was there something that you had committed to, but it hasn't come about yet? And maybe then just pull out that piece of paper and them crayons and see what you need to do to get there.
Awesome, awesome. So, Coach's Corner, what
Okay.
have you learned this week?
let's see. I have learned that sometimes as coaches, we get to put together line items, little breadcrumbs that allow the clients to come along. Those that are super creative sometimes have, yes, we have this big vision, yet they want to skip all these steps. And so being able to breadcrumb them. Okay, that I agree with you 100%. But what else do you, before we get there, what else do we need to do to like reverse engineer almost? And so that has been somewhat of a theme this week. Different in different scenarios, but still it has been taking it back to basics, um, so that they can get done what they need to get done, so they can take that next step that's going to really open the door for them. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Very cool. So I think my big takeaway this week is FUD:
Mm,
fear,
okay,
uncertainty, and doubt.
love it.
So, have a couple of clients who are trying to move from one industry to the other, and they have fear, uncertainty, and doubt. A little bit of fear about moving their skill set over to another industry. And I want to talk a little bit about that because what we don't realize is that we all have skill sets that are ubiquitous across industries:
Exactly. Yep.
sales and marketing skill sets, operational skill sets,
People skill
um,
sets.
process skill sets. And I wanted to talk about that because each and every industry. You and I come from the software industry, which is alphabet jail, um, acronym heavy. However you want to put it, it's horrible. We have an acronym for everything and an acronym for most acronyms. So the thing is that to move into our industry from any other industry, you have to learn a new language. I mean, honestly, but the skill sets are the same.
Mhm.
So it's really about translating the language of the skill set that you have in your industry into that same skill set's language in the new industry.
Mhm.
And especially if you're going out on your own or you're hanging your own shingle, and you want to target a specific market that you may not have the deepest understanding of, but what you need to understand is that your understanding may be deeper than you think it is,
Yeah.
based on that language transition. So I would challenge everyone, if they're struggling with FUD, to do some research in the industry that you're moving to and start drawing parallels between your acronyms and their acronyms,
Mhm.
and teach yourself their language so that you can come across with that skill set and bring it into that new industry. And not only that, you'll have a good understanding of how to communicate with the people in that industry.
Mhm.
So it's just like if I'm going to France, I'm going to learn French. I'm not going to be the person that goes to France and I only speak English,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So you can't expect to make leaps and bounds at your target market if you don't understand their language.
Mhm.
So that's my big takeaway for the day. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah. I would love to chime in on that to also. Sometimes people, especially coming from tech, like to use really big words to sound really smart, and that isn't necessary. That isn't necessary. And so sometimes, perhaps, yes, you do need to learn the language. You do need to learn the key terms, and so that people know that you at least know what you're talking about. However, it isn't that you have to like just speak these really big words and things that most people wouldn't understand anyways. When you can break it down to a fifth grade level, which that's where Bill Gates says that where we should always be selling people is breaking things down on a fifth grade level, that's where people are going to understand no matter what the language. Almost. Well, French, Spanish, all that. Maybe not. But when it comes to business, I could say, well, I call it this, and when I was in the tech business, and if you're able to kind of explain what it was, somebody's going to be able to help you out and say, well, in the plumbing business, we call that whatever. I don't know. I wish I could think of ideas by here, but yeah, I think that, yes, speaking the language, understanding the differences, but also when you break things down into its simplest parts, that is going to make FUD go away as well.
Yeah, well, that's true from the standpoint of communicating on a general perspective, but also I want to restate that if you're going into someone else's house, it's probably good that you understand their language.
Agreed.
And specifically when you're making that jump from an industry to industry perspective, that expecting them to communicate with you uh, in your way may not be the best way to jump into that industry and make headway right out of the gate.
Yeah,
So it's really a lot about understanding your audience at the end of the day. I agree with Bill Gates. If you're speaking to a crowd of, you don't know who's in the crowd, absolutely. It's called the least common denominator.
Yeah.
And we're going to speak at the lowest level that we can possibly so that we can get the message across. But if I'm doing a presentation to 100 neurologists and I am speaking to those guys, I'm going to speak in their language. Otherwise, I'm never going to get it across at a fifth grade language. By the way, they'll walk out on me. So it is true to both points.
Yes.
Depending on the situation, the context determines how you are. But if you're going to someone else's country, someone else's industry, and you're planning on making headway there,
Agreed.
it is best to learn their language. Absolutely. So
cool.
I'm going to close with that. Do we have anything else today? What are we going to talk about next week, Dani? I think this is good. This one's up to you. What's our headline next week? What are we going to do? What are we going to crush?
Oh boy.
I'm throwing you under the bus right now. So
yeah. How about, we talked about commitment, so accountability comes up. How about collaboration? Well, let's talk about collaboration next week.
We'll talk about collaboration next week. All right. So if anybody wants to join the show, they got something to talk about wrapped around collaboration, please shoot an email out to paul@clevelandrain.com or
Dani at coachdaniepgar.com.
There you go. So another Thursday gone. I am off to Ohio State. I'll be at the Buckeyes football game on Saturday. So looking forward to a grand old time with the daughter at school. So.
All right. Well, have a great day.
Make it a great day. You too. Everybody take care. Thank you.